burn every last one of them.
Victor is alive. The town I was telling you about, he's been stuck there all these years.
Where did you get the lunchbox?
This family is all we got, and now we got one left.
What was I supposed to do? We would have starved.
We could have found another way.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. Ah!
What is up, everybody? Jeremy Icenfire here, and welcome to the channel. From Season 3 is officially here, and after one of the most gut-wrenching, harrowing, and visceral experiences I have had watching an hour of television in a very long time, it looks like the rest of the season is going to match up to the very high bar that the Season 3 premiere laid out for itself. And after watching this first episode, it looks like the rest of Season 3 is only going to continue to get worse and worse for the residents of Fromville. Between them facing dwindling resources and a food shortage at an all-time high, which is already causing the town to fall into chaos as we see them steal the remainder of the food left in Tien Chen's house. To the cold weather that continues to move in as we seemingly have our first winter hitting Fromville in a very long time, or maybe even ever. To the monsters themselves beginning to upgrade their tactics once again, as we see them start to employ very clever strategies to lure people out of their houses at night to lay ambushes for them, which unfortunately led to the death of one of our most beloved characters, Tien Chen. And with all of these conditions continuing to worsen, the town is going to need Boyd now more than ever, but it looks like he is going to be having a very rough go of it in Season 3, as the monsters appear to be torturing him not just physically, but psychologically as well, as they are trying to break down his spirit. We did see, of course, at the end of Season 2, Boyd make a grand claim that this place will not break him, and now it seems like the monsters are taking that as a personal challenge this season.
You don't break me. You hear that? You don't fucking break me!
You said this place couldn't break you. Do you remember that, boy? You don't fucking break me. That's what she said.
But after the tragic demise of Tien Chen at the end of Episode 1, we now look ahead to Episode 2. And the trailer starts off with Jade entering the barn the next morning to find Boyd still handcuffed to the post. And one thing I really did enjoy about Episode 1 and the death scene that we did see is the fact that we actually did not see it, and how we were more focused on seeing Boyd's reaction to what was happening in front of him, as opposed to leaning too much into the gore. So I have been wondering, when Episode 2 starts off, will we as the audience get a glimpse of what these monsters really did to Tien Chen's body, or will we only see her wrapped in the cloth that we've seen in previous trailers? Part of me doesn't really even want to see what they did to her and see Tien Chen in that awful state. But if nothing else, it looks like we are now getting a more definitive answer as to whose body was in the cart that Boyd was dragging up the street, as it looks like that scene will be taking place in Episode 2 as well, as Boyd and Jade head to the church with Tien Chen's body. And we get a pretty interesting line of dialogue from Jade asking Boyd in this scene, if you were in the barn with her, then how are you still alive? With Boyd replying in a previous trailer stating, they wanted me to watch. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how this scene plays out, as it looks like Season 3 is going to be very tough for Boyd as the monsters continue to try and break him down, so it's going to be interesting to see how they up the ante from here. If they're starting with a bar this high, what else is next? And then of course there's the question, is Boyd going to be able to stand up to the pressure after everything that the monsters are throwing at him this season, or will he eventually break? And I also noticed that the title of Episode 2 is When We Go, which of course is a callback to the phenomenal scene we get between Jade and Tien Chen at the end of Season 1, when Jade is trying to comfort her about the loss of her husband, promising her that when you leave, he will come with you when you go. And I imagine the death of Tien Chen is also going to be pretty hard on Jade as well, as she is one of the very few people that Jade has formed a connection with here in Fromville, with her playing a surrogate mother role to him at times.
You know, I grew up in France with my grandma. She died when I was 12. I had to come back to the States. She said to me, they come with you when you go. I guess what I'm just trying to say is, Don't be sad. I'll come with you when you go.
But up next, we get a very interesting scene of Kenny seemingly getting angry and wanting to go on the offensive. As he says to Boyd, we are going to find those things and burn every last one of them. And by the looks of it, the scene is taking place in the bar, so maybe Kenny is getting ready to load up with as much alcohol as he can and head to the caves and burn these things out. Or potentially wait for the monsters to enter the town later on that night, and this time set an ambush for them.
We can't play defense forever, Boyd.
But Kenny definitely needs to be a little bit careful on how he chooses to deploy this fire against the monsters. Yes, it could end up being a very effective tool and could even prove to be one of their weaknesses, but if he's not careful, it could take out the entire town along with it. But one thing I did find intriguing was Kenny's overall reaction to hearing about the death of his mother. In Season 1, after he loses his father under similar circumstances, being tortured by the monsters after being let into the medical clinic by Sarah, Kenny nearly is broken. It absolutely devastates him. And I imagine he is a bit devastated here as well, but it also seems like there's another part of Kenny whose resolve has been strengthened a little bit, and is maybe even more committed now to going on the offensive. Could we potentially see a whole new Kenny going forward from here on out, a more of a badass Kenny? Or could his need for revenge end up consuming him and getting people around him hurt or even killed? After all, there is the old saying, before setting out on the path of revenge, dig 2 graves. But either way, I'm really looking forward to seeing how Kenny progresses from here on out and how he is going to handle the death of his mother and how he will be able to maybe keep his anger in check or his need for revenge. But next, the trailer continues with a pretty interesting scene between Tabitha and Henry back in the real world. At the end of episode 1, Tabitha seemingly tracked down Victor's family home and met his father. And now it looks like Tabitha is trying to convince Henry that Victor is still alive and has been trapped in this town for all of these years. But it seems like Henry is not quite believing her right off the bat, as he is angrily asking her where did she get the lunchbox. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what Tabitha might potentially uncover in this episode, as this is also going to be the one where she finds all of those paintings down in Henry's basement. Paintings that look an awful lot like the same ones that Eloise and Victor used to do as children, or Victor still does, even as an adult. And right off the bat, we can see tons of Easter eggs in these paintings in terms of things that we have already seen in the show, from the Onkui children, to the 7 stones they were laying on, to the boy in white, and multiple others. But here it looks like there is definitely a big connection that someone has in this house to Fromville. Which of course not only begs the question as to who painted these, but when they were painted as well. Could Henry himself have potentially painted these? Or could they maybe even have been painted by Eloise, Victor, or maybe even Miranda, their mother, before they were even here in Fromville? Were one of them potentially having some kind of visions of this place before they got stuck here? Or could these potentially belong to Eloise, and maybe she did in fact make it out of Fromville and back to the real world? Which then begs the question, just where exactly is Eloise now? But either way, it should be pretty interesting to see what Tabitha might uncover by speaking to Henry, and if we could finally learn some kind of origin of how Victor and his family got stuck in Fromville in the first place, and why the father was not with them. Judging by the 6-pack of beer that Henry was carrying upon entering his home, some fans have theorized that maybe he was some kind of an abusive husband or father, hence why they were not together. And while that is certainly a possibility, it's also possible that he may have become an alcoholic after he lost his family. So I hesitate to judge him too harshly too quickly until we get some more evidence. But next, the trailer ends with a pretty tense scene between Donna and Boyd as we get a quick glimpse of the funeral session that they will be holding for Tien Chen in episode 2, as what appears to be nearly the entire town gathered to pay respects. Which is very fitting, if nothing else, considering the vital role that Tien Chen filled among the town, in terms of being responsible for feeding everybody every day, and being very good at her job. But next, we hear Donna screaming at Boyd that this family is all we've got, and now we have one less, with Boyd trying to explain, what was I supposed to do? We would have starved, referring to the animals that got out the night prior which caused the ambush in the first place. Man, it seems like Donna is trying to make the case that Boyd should have left it alone and not risked going outside at night, which is certainly a tough decision no matter which way you look at it. Either Boyd chooses to leave it alone and risk losing all of the animals, or risk a few lives in order to save the little resources you have left. After all, if they did go on to lose all of these animals, that could potentially end up leading to the death of the entire town. So ultimately, I do believe Boyd did make the right decision, even though we lost Tien Chen in the process. In the long run, they could have lost a lot more if they didn't have these animals.
It was an ambush.
How many did you save? You did the only thing you could do, and you lost.
So as we can see, the intensity is continuing to ramp up more and more each episode, with the death of a beloved character, and now the conditions continuing to get worse and worse within the town. We can only wonder what else is Fromville going to throw at our survivors. But definitely let me know your thoughts and comments down below. What big questions are you hoping to get resolved this season, and do you think Kenny's plan with the fire could potentially work against the monsters? But that is going to do it today for our Episode 2 trailer breakdown, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like on your way out, and consider subscribing to stay up to date on all of our upcoming From content. And don't forget to come and join us live every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our live From watch parties. And as always, keep those tinfoil hats on, folks, and I will see you on the next one.